Hello everyone, I'm so glad to spend some time with you today. It's been a couple weeks since our last video. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Lisa. I'm with Lisa Cape and Quilts and I'm really glad you're here. It's been about 4 weeks. I'm in my new studio. We have moved and for the most part unpacked, and I've almost got my studio all set up. So pardon the mess as I find homes for all these shelves and all this stuff to go, but I'd say we're about 90% settled into our new home. And today I'm putting up my new design wall, and I always had questions in my other space on how I made my design wall. So I thought I'd bring you along and show you not only this design wall, but let's see, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 design wall options that maybe you can use in your studio or your crafting and quilting space to make a design wall so that you can plan out your patchwork and your quilts. So let's just talk real quick. The main focus is going to be on my main design wall for my studio. It's a fairly large wall and it's going to be a fairly large design wall. But then we're going to talk about how you can just use a flannel sheet pinned up to the wall. That is a very cost-effective way to get a design wall, and you can take it down when you're not using it. And also I'm going to show you a larger design wall plan that breaks down and folds down so that you can store it away like underneath your bed or in a closet. Then I'm going to show you a fun little portable design wall that you can take on retreats or take to your friend's house when you have sewing time together. So that's 4 different design wall options. Now I'm going to just say, I like using a foam board or insulation board for my design wall because I use pins. I make tons and tons of t-shirt quilts, and those blocks are heavy, and especially when you start sewing them together, the portions of those quilts are very heavy. So they don't normally stick to just flannel on the wall. So the design wall that I'm making today may or may not work for you. You might not need the insulation board, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And for the most part, it's very cost effective. You know, all of these supplies can be shopped for at like Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm going to show you how I saved money on fabric for my design wall. And so I'm just hoping to pass along some tips if you have been considering either purchasing a design wall that's already made or making your own. Maybe you can make a more informed decision after watching today's video. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you the fabric and the supplies that I'm going to use before we get started on my design wall. Let's go. So there's all different kinds of things that you can do to make a design wall. A board that you can plan out your quilt pieces on the wall. My last design board I covered with polyester batting, and I really liked it. However, the quilter's cotton didn't always stick to it. So if I was just using batting as my cover for my design wall, I would use a cotton batting. Then your pieces would stick to it. Now for my new design wall, when I was figuring out all the different things that I wanted to do with this wall, I knew I wanted to use flannel. And for the color in this room, I really wanted a gray flannel. So I went to Joann's and I was looking for a piece that was 108 inches, and I couldn't find any in gray. So I went to Amazon and I bought a sheet set. So that's what this is here. This is the Amazon Basics Everyday Flannel. I ordered a California King because that's going to give me more than enough material to cover my new wall. And this comes in 5 different colors, and I wanted the gray. So this is what is in this box. And at the time when I ordered it, it was $15.53, but that must have been on sale because I just looked this morning and the current price is $34.90. So maybe there's some other listings that you can buy flannel sheet sets for your design wall that are cheaper than $34.90. But I'm going to put a link just in case you want to check out the colors or check out this particular sheet set. Still, $34.90. The flat sheet is 108 by 102. The fitted sheet is 72 by 84, and then it's 2 pillowcases in this box, and those are 20 by 40. So that's a lot of flannel, even for $34.90. But I lucked out that day, I guess, because I paid $15.53 and I got free shipping. So I really can't beat that deal. All this fabric for little under $16. So let's go ahead and open up this box. Like I mentioned, this is a California King. And so my plan is to use the fitted sheet on my design wall. No, I'm sorry, the flat sheet on my design wall. The fitted sheet is a lot of material that I can cut the corners off and use the main body of the sheet. And the 2 pillowcases, I'm going to show you my plans for those here in just a little bit. But the first thing I want to do is go ahead and put this through the wash. So I have some laundry to do. I'm going to go ahead and wash that this afternoon before we get started building this wall. And then the other things that I have is some Gorilla Tape. I got this for $5 at Walmart. We're going to tape together the 2 pieces of insulation board for the wall. I have some sheet straps, and that's just going to help me tuck the corners around my insulation board and keep the flannel in place. I think that will be pretty easy. And I think this was under $5 at Walmart as well. And then to secure the design wall up on the wall itself, we got some washers and some cabinet screws from Lowe's. And I think that that will work pretty well for keeping the design wall in place on the wall, and I'm not going to have to worry about it coming loose. They're really long screws. They have a bit of a flatter head that will catch the washer, and we'll put some all the way around the design wall. So that's my plan. There's probably a better way of securing the board up on the wall, but I wanted to also be able to undo the screws and take the board down if I ever wanted to wash the cover or change out the color of the flannel. So I think that this will work pretty well for securing the wall in place. So as an alternative, I'm going to take you over now and we're going to look at the insulation board. Now, in my last design wall, I used a different insulation board. I really liked it. It was a little bit thinner. It was like a 1-inch, and this one is much thicker. And really, I used the board because I like to put pins with my t-shirt blocks. You know, the t-shirt blocks are a lot more heavier than our patchwork blocks with just normal quilter's cotton. So I like to sometimes be able to have the option to pin my blocks in place. And so I'm going to use the insulation board. You could just purchase a flat sheet, a flannel flat sheet, and figure out a way to secure that on your wall if you just want to be able to stick your blocks in place on the flannel. So that is another option for a design wall without insulation board. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and show you the insulation board that I'm going to use, and we'll move over there next. And I'm going to go throw this in the wash. Now let's take a look at the insulation board. And y'all, do not mind the mess you see laying on my tables. I am still unpacking and still figuring out the best place to put all these little things. So I have a little bit of stuff on my table, but ignore that. Ignore the packing boxes. But I am just starting to get settled and have a few more things to tidy up. But I really wanted to get this design wall made, and I've missed spending time with you, and so this is the perfect time today to make this video. So you'll see these 2 purple boards resting up against the wall, and you don't even see the bottom because the table is in the way. I am going to put some pictures of the aisle where you can find the insulation board. Now you can find this at your hardware stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. It's usually in the construction area, and it's insulation board. There's all different brands, there's different thicknesses, and I did make a mistake just a minute ago. My previous wall was 1/2 inch thick, and this board here is 1 inch thick. So there's all different thicknesses and different colors. Really on the other side, you'll see the Pink Panther, that was the brand. Here is the label with the price on it, so you know exactly how much each one of these boards cost. I think, without looking at the picture, right off the top of my head, it was in the $20 range. But what I really love about the insulation board is you can cut it. So I have 2 pieces here, and just factory, just like this, each one of the pieces measure 48 inches wide and 96 inches tall. And these are 1 inch thick pieces. My plan is to put 2 of them together and tape them in the middle on the front and back with the Gorilla Tape. And that will make my design wall 96 inches by 96 inches. However, if your wall is a different size, this board and all of the other insulation boards cut easily with a utility knife. So just be really careful, but you can customize the board and cut it to the size that you want. And so that really makes it so fantastic. It can work with any size wall that you have, and it's customizable. So that's my plan. I'm going to tape it right down the center and tape it on the other side and make that one large piece. And then we're going to cover it with the flannel, which I have in the wash right now. So, yeah, I think that's going to work out fantastic. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tape this together. I think it's going to be really awkward, but we'll come back once this is taped together, and I'll show you what that looks like. I just really want something to keep the 2 pieces together and make it one unit. So I'll use the Gorilla Tape, and we'll come back after that is done. So here we are with the Gorilla Tape. I started with 3 pieces. You can't really see that bottom piece, and just taped them together. Now that Gorilla Tape is super, super, super sticky and a little bit difficult to work with, but it's just like super duper duct tape and it held these pieces together really, really well. So I did 3 pieces just connecting the 2 boards, and then 1 piece that was looped around from the back all the way down to the bottom. And I thought I would go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, and so I'm going to just show you a couple pictures of the process. And that's just simply taping these 2 pieces together. Now, because this piece was fairly large, it would have probably been easier to do this on the floor. However, I have all my tables set up on the floor space, so I just used a stepladder, and that worked just as easily. You might have an easier time if you want to lay it out on the driveway or in a grassy section of your yard or on a floor space that accommodates the size of your board. So let me show you all the way down to the bottom. Both sides have been taped, and I'm waiting for my flannel sheet to come out of the dryer, and we're going to go ahead and cover this board next. So now that the insulation board is taped together, I have my flannel sheet. The only thing, if I'm going to do a review on this flannel sheet set, is that when it came out of the dryer, it was very, very wrinkly. But I think that's okay. If I'm really worried about the wrinkles, more than likely they'll stretch out once I put the sheet onto the wall anyway. So that's my one review. Other than that, so far, I love this sheet. So we're ready to go ahead and put it onto the insulation board, and we're going to do this much like putting a fitted sheet onto your mattress using the little mattress elasticy snaps that I showed you just a few minutes ago. I'm going to start at the top and just drape the sheet over the insulation, and then pull the sheet on the side of the insulation around to the back, And then on the corners, I'm going to pull it tight with these two little snaps. And they're pretty easy to use. They just like a pair of suspenders, just like this. You put the sheet in between those two and slide it in the little suspender clip thingy. I'm so technical. And then that will hold the sheet, and I'm going to stretch it so that it really pulls tight the sheet around the front of this board. Now, because this is 1 inch thick, if I find any droopy areas in the middle of the board, because it is quite a large board, then I might pull it tight on the back side and use some maybe pins or some thumbtacks to hold those places in, because it will go into the insulation board. So because this wall is so big, I think it's going to be really awkward if I leave the camera filming during this part. But I'll get the top on and I'll come back and show you exactly what it looks like from the back side. To make it easy on myself, I tried just climbing up on the little step ladder, but it was a little bit higher than what I could easily do with my small step ladder. So I've just pulled the wall up against this table, and so you can see I've just tucked under to the back the sheet and used these to add a little bit of tension to the sheet. And I also used some thumbtacks to just tack the fabric right into the board, just like this. And I did that all the way on the back side across the top. And you can just see the other strap on that other corner. So let me show you the thumbtacks that I'm using. They're from the dollar store. And that's part of the package. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. They're the little tiny little silver thumbtacks. And they work great just to hold that fabric into place and make it more manageable to tuck everything to the back. So now that I have it on the top, I'm going to maybe flip everything around. I'm thinking if you're doing a smaller design wall, you're going to have a little bit of an easier time. It would be really nice if you could just lay it all flat on the floor and then pull everything to the back all at one time, because this one's going to be rather large. It's going to be like a 7-step process, I think. But the straps are working just like I thought they would, and so I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and do the bottom. Here I am back from pinning the fabric to the back side on the bottom of the board, and so you can see it's just like a mattress. It's folded over all 4 corners, pinned in place, and then with the tacks, or you could use straight pins as well, as long as you don't go through the front side of your board, and pin the fabric all along the edges, just like that, all the way around. So now I'm going to flip this back around and up against the wall, and we're going to see if any of it needs to be pulled tighter. We're going to see how it looks. Here we are. I flipped it around, and this is the front side now. And everything was nice and tight. I guess at this point, if anything was loose and sort of sagging a little bit, you could always pull it around the side and pin it in place. But that's my new design wall. I'm so excited. It looks fantastic. And for the most part, all of the wrinkles from the dryer came out as I was pulling the sheet tight. So now I just need to screw it up on the wall. And I might wait for Harlan to come back, because I'm thinking I have a little bit of white trim down at the bottom. You can see it there in that corner. I think I want it to rest right above that white trim and not cover it up. And this is so huge that I think I'm going to need a second pair of hands. And Harlan is way better at doing those kinds of things for me. So I'll wait till he gets home, and we will attach this to the wall using the cabinet screws that I showed you and some washers. And once this is up on the wall, we'll meet back one final time, because I want to show you how you can use the pillowcases and some styrofoam to make a traveling design wall, or a design wall that if you don't have a designated place for a wall, that you could fold up and put underneath your bed or in a closet. So let's wait for Harlan to come back home and we'll finish up today. Now while we're waiting for Harlan to get home to help me secure the big design wall in place, I thought I'd show you two more design wall ideas. Now, a lot of us work on really big quilts, but we don't have a wall that's designated that we could leave a design board up all the time. So I thought it would be really great if we could have a large design wall that folds up and we could tuck it up under the bed when we're not using it, or maybe put it in a closet or put it out in a garage, something like that, some other place to store it, but be able to pull it out and have a larger design wall when we need it. So I have an example here. I have 4 pieces of styrofoam, and I'm using styrofoam for today's video, but I would use insulation board because it's a little bit more sturdier than styrofoam. It has a coating on the front and back that's going to help keep it together, where styrofoam is pretty much raw and it's a little bit fragile. I would probably use some kind of insulation board. It does not matter how thick it is, but that will help keep it together. I would get 4 pieces, however big you want your design wall to be. You might have to cut the pieces the way that they come to get the size that you want. It's totally customizable, but you'll need 4 equal pieces. And I'm going to use this as an example because you'll see I've numbered them A, B, C, and D. This represents your 4 pieces. Again, I've used Gorilla Tape. It works really well on the insulation board. It even works really well on the styrofoam. I'm going to show you how I tape this together so that you can unfold a large design wall and then fold it up and store it away when you're not using it. See, my pieces are not cut even, but I just really want to show you as an example. So let me show you how I tape this together so that it folds up. Again, my pieces are A, B, C, and D. The very first thing I did was run a piece of tape from edge to edge between pieces A and C. And at any time, feel free to pause this video and take some notes if this is the route that you want to go with your design wall. The piece is not connected here, okay, and it does not wrap around the edges. It just goes from edge to edge. And again, another separate piece of tape from edge to edge between pieces B and D. What that does is it allows these 2 pieces to fold up just like that. Okay, once you have those 2 pieces of tape in place, the very next thing I did was I flipped it around to the back. Okay, and I have a piece that runs from edge to edge. Again, it's not extending over the edge. It's just from the very top edge to the edge between pieces D and C. Right there, right in that seam. Then once you have those in place, what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over like this, and you're going to run 2 pieces of tape along, once it's folded, from B to D, just like this, and from A to C. And that allows everything to fold out open just like that. So there you go. And then once it's open, you can drape a flannel sheet or a piece of fabric over it and use that as your design wall. And once you're done with it, again, it just folds right up. Oh, I think I needed to tell you. I almost forgot. Once your 4 pieces are in the seams on the back side, flip it back over to the front one more time and fold it this way and add 2 pieces of tape, just like you see here, between pieces C and D. Again, I hope that's not too confusing. Again, if it is, just rewind to this part, take some notes, and write down the order in which the tape goes. and everything should open and fold out just like this. And then when you're done, you simply just fold it up and store it away. So there is a portable design wall that could be any size you want it to be for piecing together and planning your quilts if you do not have a designated place for your design wall. And then I have one more thing I want to show you. This is with the pillowcases, like I mentioned earlier. Now this pillowcase measures 20 by 40, and I think that that's probably a standard size pillowcase. However, these days they come in extra long and all different kinds of sizes. Actually, this looks really long. 40 may not be the standard size. This looks really long to me. However, you can use a pillowcase. Again, this is the one that came with my sheet set. And you can cut yourself, go ahead and measure your pillowcase from edge to edge and cut yourself a piece of insulation board. Again, I would probably use that because it's a little bit more sturdier. Here I just have some styrofoam from some packing material. And cut your insulation board to fit the measurements of your pillowcase. So when you're done, you can fit the insulation board right inside your pillowcase, nice and tight. It should be really snug on there. And then to finish it off, and I'm hoping, let me see. Yep, you can see that. To finish it off, I just pulled one edge over and pinned it in place. And now we can pull this edge over and pin that in place as well. And that way, if you ever wanted to reuse your insulation board but change out the fabric, you could easily do that. It's not permanent. So just like this, we're adding a few pins just to keep that in place. We'll add one more. And then I'm going to show you that this is the perfect size design board to take to your friend's house when y'all have sewing days together. You could take this easily in the car to do quilt retreats, and your fabric sticks right to it. Let me pause this and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, I just grabbed some fabric pieces from my stash. So the flannel, nice and tight on the insulation board, is going to offer you the perfect design space that you can design your quilt blocks and see how they're going to lay out and see if you want to change any of the colors. You can play with the design just like that. And you could set this up and take a step back and take a look at your quilt block. You could do a couple quilt blocks and set them side by side and see how your quilt is coming along. Check the placement, all different ways that you could use a design board, and it comes in really, really handy when you are putting together patchwork. So this is the great size, again, just like this. This was 20 by 40, the size of the pillowcase. And it is flannel, so your pieces stick to it and you can just take them off, move them around, and you could put this in the back seat of your car or the trunk of your car, and it is super, super lightweight. It doesn't even weigh not even half a pound. It is super light. So those are my two ideas for portable design walls that are fairly cheap. Actually, if you wanted to use a styrofoam, this was styrofoam packing out of the container that these desks came in. So we repurpose all kinds of things here in my house, and so I'll probably leave this just like this for future videos and designing blocks of patchwork. Okay, if you have any questions about these two designs, jump down to the comment section. I'd love to help you. And now we're just waiting for Harlan to get home to finish up the design wall that we've made together. Yay, Harlan's home, and he's ready to help me secure the design board up on the wall. Before we get started, he has a really good trick if you do not have a stud finder, or this trick even works better than a stud finder, so that you can screw the securing screws into the studs and not just blank drywall. That way, along the road, down the line somewhere your design wall doesn't pull away from the wall. So Harlan, you want to show them the little trick to find the studs?
Absolutely, Lisa. Well, most people do not have stud finders, and they don't want to go out and spend $20 or $30 on a stud finder that really doesn't work that well anyway. I grew up doing carpentry, and I've never really had good luck with stud finders. So a really quick little trick is most everybody has magnets somewhere around the house, and the sheetrock is held up by either metal nails or metal screws, so magnets will stick right to it. Allow me to demonstrate. I'll come up here, and I've already made a little mark where the stud is right here. What you can do is you just take the magnet and you just move it back and forth until you feel it catch. And you see that right there, so you know that that's a metal screw right there, and the stud is going to be right there. And then that way you can screw straight into a stud, easy.
Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to put 2 screws with washers up at the top, and because they're going in the studs, that'll really secure the top of the design wall. And then we'll put 1 or 2 along the sides, and I think that will do. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to come back after everything is finished up.
Okay, let me show them the washers and the screws.
Yeah, I already did, honey.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Thank you, though. All right, show me a close-up.
So these are some screws. The ones that are going to work better have a nice flat end on them. See that? That way when you put it through the washer, it's going to sit flat on the washer like that. Although that's not necessarily completely required to have it sit nice and flat like that. It just looks nicer.
Thank you, honey. All right, now we're going to go put those into place, get the wall secured, and we're going to come back and finish up today's video. So here we are all finished. Harlan put 2 screws up at the top in the studs and 2 in the bottom with the washers, and that was enough to secure my design wall into place nice and sturdy. So it is there for as long as I want it to be there, and I can easily take it off and replace the cover if I ever wanted to. So with the foam board insulation, you can see you can pin up quilts. This was the mystery quilt that we last did together. You can use pins, pin up your quilts, take pictures of them for your clients or for yourself. You can pin up sections of quilt that you're working on at a time. The weight doesn't matter. But you also have the versatility of the flannel. So when you're doing patchwork and you're planning out your blocks, the quilter's cotton sticks right to the flannel. So I'm very excited to get busy and start using my new design wall. I hope that one of the 4 options works for you and maybe saves you some money versus buying a pre-made design wall. 4 different options. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to jump down to the comment section below. I'll try to be really quick and get back to you. You can also join me on Facebook at Lisa Cape and Quilts. And if you haven't joined yet, the Creative Crew group through my Facebook is a very, very helpful place to go. Lots and lots and lots of very helpful members. I've really enjoyed spending some time with you, and we'll get together really soon. Bye, everyone.